Welcome everybody to H4G. We have kind of an odd episode today talking about different potential names for Ura Zelda. Now for those of you that don't know, Ura Zelda was an expansion disc that never came out for Ocarina of Time on the N64.
It's just like the expansion to your house. You've been planning and planning and planning and just realize you don't have a yard, so you can't do it.
It ain't coming. It ain't coming. Think DLC for nowadays.
Yeah.
But it likely would not have been called Ura Zelda, which basically means another Zelda. Ura is a Japanese word, so in the US, I'm sure it would have been called something different, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're talking about today. So that brings us to Zelda X. You can see this image here. It was originally brought to us by N64 and his team back in the day. They were hacking the Master Quest Debug ROM, and they found these images that showcase
a lot of cool stuff.
A lot of really cool stuff. And keep in mind, at this point in time, they were a little bit more credible, or at least Zeth was a little bit more credible. His team remains credible, but they found this and thought it was a potential new name or different name for Ura Zelda. So we're going to be talking about whether we think that's true or not. And the image didn't really exist anywhere other than with Zeth and with our website.
Mm-hmm.
But we took our website down, and Zeth took all of his stuff down. So it doesn't really exist anywhere. So we figured we should share this with you guys, just for shits and giggles.
Mostly shits.
Let's debate. Is this real?
I think it might very well be. I mean, everybody remembers 90s rad, but that was more early 90s.
Sure.
People always forget late 90s X.
Extreme.
Everything was so extreme.
Jello was
I
extreme.
don't forget the X.
Extreme X-Men comic book.
Our Doritos were 3D.
But my counterpoint to that would be that doesn't really seem to jive with Nintendo's general approach to things, because they kind of did a little bit of X marketing with like F-Zero, but that was the only franchise that they ever really...
That's actually a good point, though, which may go to what you said, because F-Zero X, that was the same generation, though.
And
Right.
They even did a disc drive expansion.
But at the same time, like, the point I'm trying to make is...
This point's falling apart, dog. It's falling apart.
He's sweating.
He's sweating
like Rubio. It's Rubio.
There was a lot of debate in those days, like, PlayStation's better because it's the more mature console for my dark and twisted self. Nintendo is just Disney cartoons and fairy pants.
Trying not to spit up my beer here, but then again, it's Miller Lite, so it probably wouldn't be too much of a waste if I did.
But yeah, Nintendo sort of embraced their more family-friendly image.
As they continue to do, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my counterpoint to that side of things.
So do we think that, there's a couple different camps here. Do we think that it is, either potentially would have been the name for Ura Zelda, or maybe it was a placeholder, or it could have just been fake?
I kind of am not entirely convinced that it's an authentic image.
Okay.
It could just be that it was hastily thrown together on Nintendo's end anyway.
Sure.
But the X, it doesn't really seem to jive with the rest of the image. And like I said, maybe that's just lazy-ass Nintendo being like, well, we gotta put something in
Throw
there.
something up there.
We have to have a functioning menu. It doesn't have to be the end thing.
Yeah.
Just throw an X where we're gonna put the actual title.
Yeah.
I would say there's a fair chance it could have been the name, and definitely the graphic that's there. That is absolutely a placeholder, because it kind of looks like butt. But it could have been the name. It probably would have been more stylized with it. Think kind of like Mega Man X, another X game.
Sure.
Now,
that's Capcom.
The question I have to ask is, if you were going that route, and we all know that like there are words like xylophone and Xander, why not just put X instead of a Z for Zelda? Zelda.
Ooh.
That's a point that you have just made right now.
You see? Wow.
That is certainly a thing that you said.
Wow.
Now we need an image of that.
I know. I'm hoping to kick this out quick. I'm just gonna like crop the word Zelda hastily, and then just take that X and like copy it and like
Well, all you have to
hastily
do
crop
is,
that out and just put that there, and it's gonna look like ass.
all you have to do is like snip off the tops of the Z and then just be like mirror,
Ah, yeah, okay.
and just have it be like, and then just add that as the sound, and they'd be like, there it is, Zelda.
This is how we make our magic, guys.
Zelda goes
There
on
it is.
their
There it
adventure.
is. So, of course, we invite any of you who may be able to hack the Master Quest ROM, the Debug ROM, to be able to find this image and verify that it is not faked, basically.
Yeah.
This is one of the great issues of our time. It must be done.
It must be done. So moving forward, we have something that's interesting. We have some information regarding the product ID. Now, this is a little bit less flashy than Zelda X, but we thought it was definitely worth noting. And a big thank you to Victor Hale for pointing this out to us. All Nintendo games, all games really have product ID codes. They give a little bit of information that you can figure out regarding the game, but not much. So for example, you can see here that the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for Japan was CZLJ, right? So the J you could probably assume was Japan, the Z you could probably assume was Zelda. Maybe, right? Don't really know. And you can see this code verified in the code of the game. Now, thanks to Victor Hale, he gave this information to us, we now know the product ID code for Ura Zelda, as you can see here. My God. So, you can see EZLJ, EZLE. What does it mean? Z has something to do with Zelda, maybe. Otherwise, we don't really know. Again, that's not really any particularly flashy information, but knowing the product ID of Ura Zelda does help shine some light, potentially, on what it may have been called, or at least what it would have been designated as in sort of like a retail manufacturer sort of sphere.
It also could potentially give us a clue for blue discs that crop up should they have
Would
that
you would you
code.
call that a
That's true.
blues clue?
So that said, kind of a strange, more off-the-wall episode, but we had this information, we did really want to share it with you guys because we thought it was important for our various Zelda questing.
Important?
Yeah, that's-
Interesting. We hope that you guys learned something new. If you have any insight in anything that we talked about, feel free to share. Thank you very much for joining us today. Any last words for our audience?
No.
Thanks for watching. If you want to see more H4G game reviews, don't forget to subscribe to see new episodes every week. And for those interested, we have just started a brand new Patreon page. Definitely check it out. We're working on some great perks and rewards for you guys. Links are in the description below.